Ex-wife cheats, ruins our marriage, begs to stay, and faces instant karma. Background of our marriage and divorce. I'm 48 years old, and my life has been a mix of highs and lows, especially when it comes to my marriage. My ex-wife and I were together for 14 years. We had two wonderful kids, a beautiful home, and a seemingly perfect life. But behind that facade, things weren't as they appeared. My ex-wife started an affair with a married coworker, and everything changed. It was an affair that rocked me to my core, and eventually, it was the catalyst that ended our marriage. I remember the day she admitted the truth. It wasn't easy, and at first, I wasn't sure I could process it. After a month of denying any wrongdoing, she finally confessed to the affair. She said it was a mistake, that she was remorseful, but for me, the damage had been done. I had already started to distance myself emotionally, and by then, I knew that I couldn't continue in that marriage. The emotional turmoil was unlike anything I had ever experienced. We had spent 14 years together, building a life that was supposed to last forever. But in the end, it only took a few months for it all to crumble. After she admitted to the affair, she begged me to stay, to work things out, to rebuild our marriage. But the trust was shattered, and I knew I needed to move on. I filed for divorce. The divorce wasn't contested. She didn't argue my settlement terms, which was a relief. We settled on joint custody of the kids, and though it wasn't easy, we both tried our best to continue as good parents for them. She never contested the custody arrangement or the financial settlement, and I think she understood, in a way, that she had lost her right to make demands after what she had done. But things were far from perfect. Both of us struggled with the reality of our new lives. We were no longer a family, and we had to adjust to being single parents in a world that had changed completely for both of us. Life after the divorce. Entering the world of dating again, it took some time, but I eventually found a sense of normalcy after the divorce. I focused on my kids, my career, and rebuilding my life. And then, just before the holidays, I met someone new. It wasn't serious at first. It was just a casual relationship with a woman who, like me, had a child. Her daughter was around the same age as mine, so we thought it might be nice to introduce the kids to each other. Things were going well, but it was still too early to tell what would come of it. We hadn't even officially discussed what it would mean to merge our families. Before making any decisions, I thought it would be a good idea to inform my ex-wife. I didn't want her to find out from someone else, and out of respect for our shared parenting responsibilities, I sent her a text letting her know that I was seeing someone. I was trying to be considerate, giving her a heads up about the situation. The moment she called me, I could tell she was upset. I could hear the edge in her voice, but I tried to remain calm. I told her that, just like her, I was moving on and seeing other people. I reminded her that this was bound to happen eventually. It wasn't like we could live in the past forever. What followed was a cascade of emotions. My ex-wife started crying, her voice breaking as she insisted that she had not been seeing anyone. She claimed that she hadn't gone on a single date since our divorce. Her words felt desperate, but I wasn't sure I believed her. Still, I listened, offering as much understanding as I could. Then, she became angry. She demanded that I not introduce my new girlfriend to our kids until she was ready to see her. She insisted that she wasn't comfortable with the situation, and she wasn't prepared for it. At this point, I felt like I was walking on eggshells. I told her that this was just a friendship at this stage, but she seemed unable to hear me. She kept insisting that I shouldn't bring my girlfriend around our children. I tried to reassure her, but it was clear she wasn't ready to accept that I had moved on. A few hours later, her apology and more drama. An hour later, I received a text from her. She apologized for getting upset, saying she understood my need to move on, I was taken aback by the sudden shift in tone, but I appreciated the apology. I thanked her for it and hoped that things would settle down. But an hour after that, another text came through. This time, she said, "I deserve this," referring to the fact that I had moved on and was dating someone new. It was a confusing series of messages. One moment, she was crying and begging for space. The next, she was expressing resentment. She was clearly conflicted, struggling with the reality that I had found someone else. She apologized, then immediately made a statement that made me feel uncomfortable. She said that she didn't want any vindictive behavior, but it was clear she was still grappling with feelings of jealousy and betrayal. I understand that it must have been difficult for her to see me move on so quickly, but at the same time, I couldn't let her dictate the course of my life anymore. My new girlfriend was rock solid, and she didn't tolerate toxic behavior. I had to make it clear that I wasn't going to allow any drama in my life, especially for the sake of my kids. I knew that maintaining a healthy co-parenting relationship was key, but I also had to prioritize my own well-being. Reflections on my ex-wife's life after the affair. Looking back, I realized how much my ex-wife had lost. During the first 13 years of our marriage, she had everything. She raised two wonderful kids, earned her college degree, and built a successful career. We had a beautiful home, and everything seemed perfect. But after the affair, everything changed. She lost her career, her financial stability, and her sense of self. After the divorce, she moved into a small apartment, a far cry from the life she had once known. I had no idea how bad things had gotten for her until I started hearing about her struggles. She lost her job, and her financial situation took a sharp turn downward. It was painful to witness her fall so far, but at the same time, it was hard not to feel a sense of justice. When she first entered the affair, I think she believed that the affair partner would take care of her. She thought that he would somehow provide her with the life she had lost with me. But within a few months of the divorce, he dumped her. I think she had imagined a fairy tale ending, but reality didn't work out that way. I still remember how she acted during the divorce mediation. She was so disconnected, so distant from the reality of what she had done. She was still immersed in the affair fog, unable to see the full consequences of her actions. I'll never forget her look during that meeting, the cold, empty stare she gave me. It was as if she was relishing in my pain, almost enjoying watching me suffer. That moment, more than anything else, stuck with me. Lessons learned, and moving forward now, looking back on everything, I've gained a lot of perspective. 3 years have passed since the divorce, and life has slowly moved on. The affair and all the pain it caused are now just distant memories. But the lessons I learned will stay with me forever. I've learned the importance of taking action when dealing with infidelity. When you're in that situation, it's easy to fall into the trap of wanting to fix things, to salvage what's left. But sometimes, walking away is the only option. I acted quickly during the divorce, and in hindsight, I'm glad I did. I also realized that while you can't control the actions of others, you can control how you respond. I chose not to engage in vindictive behavior, even though there were many moments when I felt like it was deserved. In the end, my priority became creating a stable, peaceful life for myself and my kids. That meant keeping my ex-wife at arm's length and focusing on what was best for us. Life after infidelity is hard, but it's not impossible. If you're reading this and going through something similar, remember this: you will get through it. Keep focusing on your future and your well-being. Don't let someone else's mistakes define you. And most importantly, remember that the good guys and gals always win in the end. Life does get better. I can promise you that. I want to start this conversation by telling you that the life I've lived is nothing close to what I ever dreamed of. It hasn't been a fairy tale or the perfect road to success. but somehow, by some miracle, I've landed on solid ground. There have been times when I felt like I was being dragged through life by the forces of the universe, only to come out stronger and more resilient. Throughout all of it, my employer supported me through the toughest times, and for that, I am forever grateful. And now, despite all the challenges and setbacks, I'm in a position where my career and performance are excelling. Somehow, during all of this chaos, I met the most amazing girlfriend. I never imagined I could have such a strong, meaningful connection with anyone again, especially after the damage that was caused by my ex-wife's affair. It felt like a miracle. In some ways, the connection I now share with my girlfriend surpasses the one I had with my ex-wife. And that's something I never imagined would be possible. It took years of pain and healing to get to this point, but miraculously, I achieved so much more than I ever thought I could. This whole experience has fundamentally changed my views on love, on trust, on life in general. My values have shifted, and I now see things through a different lens. I know what it means to value true friendship, and I nurture those relationships with a select few who truly understand me. It's a humbling experience to realize how far I've come and how much more there is still to be done. But through it all, I found my kids. I needed them, and they needed me. Our relationship has grown exponentially over the past couple of years, and today, they are in a good place. That, more than anything, is what kept me going. I don't know why or how I've been so blessed. I'm not special, wealthy, or important. I'm just a regular person who did his best to be a good person. I hung in there through the hard times, and today, I can look back and be proud of the progress I've made. My only advice to anyone who finds themselves in a tough spot is to hold on. Brighter days are ahead. Be a good person and have confidence that the good guys always win. As I reflect on everything I've been through, I also want to share my thoughts on why people cheat. It's a question that many have asked and that I've spent a lot of time thinking about. In my own life, I've been on both sides of this story, and while the answers may be different depending on the person and the circumstances, there are some common themes that emerge when you really dig deep into this issue. Update 7. Why people cheat. Sharing a point of view. The first thing to understand is that everything we possess in life holds value. This includes material objects, friendships, relationships, careers, freedom, security, even ourselves. The way we value these things is complex. We are all unique individuals, shaped by our life experiences, our environments, and even our DNA. Because of this, we all place different levels of value on the things we have, and what we value can change over time. Sometimes, we can control the value of what we have, and sometimes we can't. Take relationships, for example. In the case of cheating and affairs, the reality is often quite simple. The person who cheated valued the affair more than the marriage. It's not always a matter of love or lack thereof. Sometimes it's a simple matter of perception. The affair seems exciting, new, and full of potential, while the marriage has become routine or stagnant. This doesn't mean the marriage wasn't valuable, it's just that, in that moment, the value was misaligned. In my own situation, I believe my ex-wife took our relationship for granted. We didn't have many problems, and I do believe she valued what we had. But she also overvalued the affair and the excitement it brought her. Affairs, especially in the beginning, can feel like a rush of dopamine, new, thrilling, and addictive. It's easy to get caught up in that feeling and overlook the more stable, long-term values of a committed relationship. Update 8. The shocking truth about my ex's finances. Well, just when I thought I had a clear picture of everything, I ran into one of my ex's estranged friends at the bar. She was pretty drunk, and after some small talk, she started telling me just how messed up my ex really was. Apparently, after our divorce, my ex blew a huge chunk of her divorce settlement money by investing in her affair partner's failing business. The business was in distress, and the investment didn't help it, just bought some time before it eventually went under. She was left with nothing. To make matters worse, when the affair partner was about to move out of state, he asked her to come with him, and she agreed. But, as expected, he dumped her instead. Honestly, this didn't upset me. I knew she had been struggling financially, and now I knew why. It wasn't that I didn't feel bad for her. It's just that when you make those kinds of decisions, you have to deal with the consequences. My kids needed me more than anything, and I was able to focus on them and help them through their own struggles. Update 9. Why reconciliation was off the table when you've been through something as devastating as infidelity. Reconciliation seems like a distant, almost impossible option. It wasn't that I didn't think about it, of course, I did. I thought about the impact on the kids, the financial repercussions, and all the other factors that come into play after such a betrayal. But when I really looked at the situation, I realized that it wasn't just about the affair. It was about accepting the reality of what our relationship had become. I came to terms with the fact that our marriage could never go back to what it once was. The purity of the relationship was gone. I knew that our relationship could improve after the affair, and that maybe things could even get better with therapy and time. But no matter how much we worked at it, the fundamental connection we had would never be the same again. I would always view her differently. The possessiveness I once felt knowing that she was mine had vanished. She had become someone else, someone I couldn't trust anymore. This was a hard pill to swallow, but I had to face it. I wanted a marriage that was pure. I wanted a wife who could give me her all, just as I would give her mine. Staying in a relationship where that wasn't possible seemed pointless. I had one life to live, and I wanted to live it fully, without the constant weight of betrayal hanging over me. Update 10. The difference between affair sex and marriage sex. One of the most frequently discussed topics around affairs is the difference between affair sex and marriage sex. From my perspective, and based on my experiences, the difference is clear. Affair sex is about newness, excitement, and the rush of dopamine. It's a high that comes from the thrill of doing something forbidden and exciting, but that high fades over time. Eventually, the excitement wears off, and the relationship becomes routine, just like any other relationship. Marriage sex, on the other hand, is about intimacy, comfort, and connection. It's about oxytocin, the hormone responsible for bonding and connection. While affair sex might be thrilling in the short term, marriage sex offers something deeper: security, trust, and closeness. It's sustainable. Over time, oxytocin levels rise, strengthening the bond between partners. That's the real magic of a long-term relationship. It's not the rush of excitement, but the warmth and connection that grows over time. Update 11. The modern walkaway wife syndrome. There's a harsh reality to what I like to call the walkaway wife syndrome. In many cases, women cheat because they are bored. It's not that they don't have everything they could ever want, it's that they are unfulfilled in other ways. Instead of addressing this boredom and finding meaning in their lives, some women retreat into social media and fantasy worlds. They see pictures of other women, often divorced or single, living what seems like a fulfilling life, and they begin to believe that they too could find happiness outside their marriage. The problem with this is that it's not real. Social media is full of stories from women who perpetuate the idea of the single strong female. But the reality is that many of these women are simply looking for validation. They post content to get likes, to feel seen, and to justify their own choices. They create narratives that their marriages were the problem, and that leaving will make everything better. It's a toxic cycle that only leads to more pain and confusion. If you are dealing with a partner who seems to be drifting away, it's important to recognize that it might not be about you. It could be about them and the emptiness they are trying to fill with external validation. But remember, no matter how much they convince themselves otherwise, they can't outrun the need for real connection and fulfillment.